You know that friend who secretly celebrates when a party gets canceled, the one who treats a Saturday night alone like winning the lottery. That's not laziness, it's not depression, and it's certainly not social failure. What if their brain actually runs on a completely different fuel than the people who can't sit still without an audience? And what if science now suggests they've stumbled onto something most of us spend decades chasing and never finding? Here's the truth no one tells you about people who genuinely love being home. They aren't escaping life. They aren't scared of the world. They've simply found something most people desperately search for everywhere else. Contentment that needs no witnesses, but society has a strange obsession with this. If you're not constantly moving, doing, posting, proving you have a life, something must be wrong, right? Wrong. Let's walk through what's actually firing inside the mind of someone who would rather alphabetize their spice rack than show up to that crowded bar. Because what you're about to hear might flip everything you thought you knew about happiness, meaning, and what a good life actually looks like. Your nervous system has a ceiling, and you've already hit yours. Every human brain has what neuroscientists call an optimal arousal level. Think of it like a volume dial. Some people need the music at maximum just to feel anything. For others, a low hum is plenty loud. People who prefer staying home aren't broken. Their volume dial is just set differently. Outside, your nervous system processes thousands of inputs per second. The stranger who holds eye contact too long, the unexpected car horn, the pressure to laugh at the right joke, the constant, invisible math of social performance. For extroverts, that chaos is fuel. Their brains actually crave it. But for the home-loving mind, each of those moments is a small withdrawal from a limited energy account. And here's the part that might surprise you. It's rarely about disliking people. It's about exhaustion from performing. A 2018 study in the Journal of Personality found that highly sensitive individuals process sensory information roughly 40% more deeply than average. Meaning, your brain is working overtime in rooms where others are barely breaking a sweat. When you're home, you're not doing nothing. You're finally letting your nervous system stop scanning every sound, every face, every potential misstep for threats. You're not recharging, you're running at your actual factory setting. Let's sit with something uncomfortable for a moment. Why does home feel safer than almost anywhere else? And no, this isn't about clinical anxiety or agoraphobia, though those are real and deserve care. This is about something more universal. The outside world is fundamentally unpredictable. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your coworker is short with you for no reason. The coffee shop changed your usual syrup. Small things, but your brain doesn't treat them as small. It treats them as variables you cannot control. Now think about home. You know where everything is. You decide the temperature, the lighting, the noise, who enters, and what happens next. You're not hiding. You're finally exhaling. Psychologists call this environmental mastery. And homebodies have quietly mastered something essential. They've built a space that asks nothing of them. Research from UC Berkeley shows that people with strong attachments to their personal spaces score significantly higher in self-sufficiency and emotional regulation. They don't depend on external applause because they've built an inner world rich enough to feed them. But here's the paradox society doesn't want you to see. The more comfortable you are alone, the less you need from others. And that makes some people deeply uncomfortable. Because if you don't need the party, the networking happy hour, the constant social proof, what does that say about everyone who does? It says they're different, not better, not worse. Just different. Here's a question. Would you rather have 100 shallow friends or 3 people who truly see you? People who love staying home have already answered that, and their answer shapes everything. In psychology, there's something called social investment theory. Most people operate on a breadth model, many connections, high activity, abundant social proof. Their identity gets reinforced by how many people know their name. But homebodies run on a depth model. They'd rather have one real conversation than attend 5 events where everyone is performing their highlight reel. That's not antisocial. That's actually a more advanced form of social intelligence. Think about it. When you stop managing dozens of surface-level relationships, you have more energy for the ones that actually feed your soul. You're not spreading thin, you're going deep. The famous Harvard Adult Development Study, which followed people for over 75 years, found something remarkable. The quality of your relationships matters infinitely more than the quantity. And the people who understood that early were often the ones who preferred smaller, more intimate settings. Staying home isn't about avoiding people. It's about stepping away from performative connection to make room for genuine connection. Here's what homebodies understand that many extroverts miss. Every yes to something outside is a no to something inside. And they've decided their inside world is worth protecting. Now this is where things get really interesting. What are you actually doing when you're home alone? Society assumes nothing, Netflix, scrolling, wasting time. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. When your brain stops processing external noise, it activates the default mode network. That's the system responsible for self-reflection, memory consolidation, future planning, creative problem-solving, and meaning-making. In other words, the very processes that build your sense of self emerge when you're not overwhelmed by the outside world. fMRI studies show that people who regularly spend time in solitude develop stronger, more active default mode networks. Their brains are literally building better wiring for complex thought. Think about every major creative breakthrough in history. Einstein in a patent office, Maya Angelou in a bare hotel room, Beethoven composing in silence. Solitude isn't where creativity dies. Solitude is where it's born. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's the factory floor of the self. And here's the part that might reframe everything. In our hyper-connected world, the ability to be alone with your own thoughts may be the rarest and most valuable skill you can develop. While everyone else needs constant input to feel alive, you're over here generating ideas, processing emotions, and building entire worlds inside your own head. That's not boring. That's profound. But let's pause for honesty. There's a difference between choosing solitude and hiding in it. And if you've been nodding along so far, you need to ask yourself one crucial question. Am I staying home because it fills me up, or because going out feels too hard? Because what looks like preference can sometimes be psychological protection. Protection from rejection, from judgment, from the vulnerability of actually showing up. That's okay to admit. Healthy solitude comes from abundance, not scarcity. You enjoy being home because you've had meaningful connections and know you can have them again. You're not running from the world, you're running toward yourself. But if staying home comes with intense anxiety about leaving, fear of judgment, avoidance of connections you genuinely want, or persistent feelings of inadequacy, that may not be preference. That might be something worth exploring with a professional. The goal isn't to force yourself into someone else's mold. The goal is to make sure you're choosing home from strength, not fear. No shame in needing support. Only courage in seeking it. Here's what people who love staying home have figured out that most of the world is still desperately searching for. Meaning isn't found in big moments. It's built in small rituals. While everyone else chases the next Instagram-worthy experience, the next trip, the next thing that'll finally make them feel alive, homebodies have discovered something radical. Magic lives in the mundane, the morning coffee ritual, the evening walk around the block, the way afternoon light hits your bedroom wall, the comfort of your favorite chair, the sound of rain on the window. These aren't just habits, they're anchors. And in a world spinning faster every day, anchors are everything. Research on happiness consistently shows that sustainable joy comes from daily practices, not occasional peak experiences. The people with the highest life satisfaction aren't the ones with the most exciting lives. They're the ones with the most meaningful routines, and you can't build routines when you're always somewhere else. People who love staying home have hacked the happiness code without realizing it. You don't need to be everywhere to feel fulfilled. You just need to be fully present somewhere, and that somewhere might as well have sweatpants. So here's what we've learned. People who love staying home aren't antisocial. They're selectively social, not lazy, energy conscious, not missing out, opting out of a game they never wanted to play. Their brains process stimulation differently. Their dopamine comes from different sources. Their vision of a good life doesn't require an audience. And in a culture obsessed with being seen, being busy, and being everywhere at once, the most rebellious thing you can do is be perfectly content being nowhere. You're not broken because you'd rather stay in on Saturday. You're not boring because your ideal evening doesn't involve a crowd. You're not less than because you've built a life that doesn't need applause to feel meaningful. You're just different. And that difference might be exactly what the world needs more of. So tell me, are you team home is where my soul lives, or team I need to be out to feel alive? Drop it in the comments. Let's find our people. If this made you feel seen, hit like for wins of thought, and subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of everyday life. However you recharge, whatever brings you peace, it's valid. You're valid. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.